Last evening, President Obama gave his fifth State of the State address, and in my opinion, it was a very good speech. You don't have to agree with every aspect or any aspect. I mean, obviously, there's some that you have to agree with. The recognition of the military, and particularly the soldier that was there who had suffered so much and is working his way back, was an inspirational story. But the speech itself, in my opinion, was a very good speech. But that's it. It was a speech. Uh, on our next podcast, on Another Voice with Eric and Friends, which you'll find this coming Monday on canIGetAWordIn.com, the guys and I are going to go into the details of the speech, fact checking, looking at the specifics and how the agenda the president wants, and whether it's good, and what the opposition has to say. We'll look at the other responses to the president's speech as well. Today, I just want to highlight three things briefly in general. First thing I want to do is I saw a comment or two from elected officials, Republican elected officials in the House, who characterized the speech as one of the most divisive speeches ever. That the president was disrespectful and was divisive and was trying to, put down the minority party. Now, I've heard that every single year that the president has given his State of the Union address. I don't know if I do know. That has nothing to do with reality. There have been other State of the Union addresses by other presidents who have clearly attacked the minority party when they didn't get what they wanted. President Obama's last State of the Union address was a more pointed calling down of the Republicans in the Senate and the House for not doing what he thinks they should have done. It was very, you should have done this. This speech, not so much. Look, folks, people have different opinions. They have different ideas about what should be done. And they strongly promote them. My friends on the right and my friends on the left do that. When someone from the opposite party, the opposite idea, expresses their thoughts, it's not an attack on you. Unless, when you express how they're wrong, it's an attack on them. I don't think you want to claim that. But moving off that, I am a person who believes in fact-checking. Every speech, every candidate, looking at as much as we possibly can to get to the facts. Because elected officials, public officials, private individuals sometimes make mistakes and say things that are incorrect, sometimes shade the conversation in a way that makes you think something that's not accurate, sometimes outright lie. And it's our responsibility as citizens to fact check. So I completely support fact checking. We do it on the show. But I think it's important that fact checking actually be fact checking. I saw a line on online somewhere. It said the AP fact checking pulverizes Obama's State of the Union address. That's some pretty strong words. And they listed a number of areas where they fact-checked the president. And some of them, there was some very clear things that the president was either inaccurate about, but most of what they pointed out was that he had shaded things the wrong direction. But I want to point one thing out, that if you're going to fact-check, actually make the fact-check something different than what he said. And I'll give you the example. In last night's speech, the president said, today, after 4 years of economic growth, corporate profits and stock prices have rarely been higher, and those at the top have never done better. But average wages have barely budged. Inequality has deepened. Upward mobility has stalled. Now, the fact-checking on this did it say anything about corporate profits or stock prices or the people at the top or wages. It didn't address any of that. It didn't even address income inequality has deepened. It went to the last sentence. And the last sentence is upward mobility has stalled. Now, the fact checker stated the fact that a team of economists led by Harvard's Raj Chetty had done a study and found that the United States isn't any less socially mobile than it was in 1970. The quote is, "We find that children entering the labor market today have the same chances of moving up the income distribution relative to their parents as children born in the 1970s." I want to make sure I understand this. To prove that the president's statement that upward mobility has stalled, this team of economists stated that children today have as much upward mobility as children 40 years ago. The concept of upward mobility stalling means it's not increasing. And according to the very study that these fact checkers used, it's a fact that they have the same chance as 40 years ago. Now, you can argue that the government doesn't need to get involved in income inequality. You can argue that you can't attack the rich to make the poor richer. I got that. But that's not the fact check. The fact check is the president said upward mobility has stalled. The fact checkers proved him right while trying to prove him wrong. So please, when you try to fact check, make sure you actually find something that's different than what they said. And one final thought, I want to ask the president, what are you doing? He said in this speech, and he said to other times, if Congress won't act, I will. I have a pen, I have a phone. I will do what needs to be done if Congress won't do it. Now that sounds a lot like I'm going to usurp the authority of Congress. I'm going to do what Congress won't do. And I'm like, I'm a man who believes in the rule of law, the Constitution, which has 3 separate branches, and they each have responsibilities, and it's a checks and balance type of thing. What are you saying? That sounds like you're trying to usurp the Congress. I don't understand why you say that. Now, my conservative friends would say, because he is. But I'm also a man who likes to look at the details. And when I looked at the executive orders the president has done since he's been in office, I have yet to find one that has actually usurped congressional authority. All of the executive orders that I have looked at have been the executive doing something in the executive branch and administratively, which is what he has the authority to do. Now, some of my friends on the right will point to one thing that he did recently, in the last year or so, that they say, see, this went around Congress. The DREAM Act failed in Congress. And shortly after that, the president directed the Naturalization and Immigration Service to take their focus away from deporting people who were brought into this country as children by their parents and focus on other deportations. And the deportations numbers are higher in subsequent years, including this last year. And they point, see, he couldn't get the DREAM Act done, so he's circumventing Congress. I got 2 answers for that. First, a person brought here by their parent when they were a child, even though their parents they entered the country illegally, the child has no legal responsibility because they had no legal ability to obey the law. Their parents did. And so prosecuting somebody or penalizing somebody who could not legally break the law is wrong. The second thing is the administration, whichever administration it is, whichever president's in office, has the ability to direct the focus of the administrative agencies. For example, after 9/11, the FBI took a huge focus shift to anti-terrorism, away from organized crime and other things. No one complained about that because the administration has the right to shift focuses in certain areas. And when we look at the numbers in deportations, the president's these numbers shown that deportations are up. So again, they don't see that usurping Congress. And everything I heard him talk about specifically that he was going to do with executive order, he has the legal right to do. From what I can tell. If you have anything you know that you can point out that is actually outside of his jurisdiction, please put it in the comments here because I want to make that clear. And the other idea is that this president is just wielding that executive order like crazy, that he's just gone crazy with it. Since William McKinley was president, there's been only one president who has issued less executive orders than this president. And that was President George H.W. Bush. He has one less than this president does. Now, this president has 3 more years, so he could do more. And maybe he can catch up with people like Theodore Roosevelt, who issued 1,081 executive orders, or Calvin Coolidge, who issued 1,203, or Dwight Eisenhower, 484, or Richard Nixon, 346, or Jimmy Carter, 320, Ronald Reagan, 381. Again, about double of what the current president has done. Bill Clinton, 364. George Bush, 291. This president is not using the executive order any more than the previous presidents, going all the way back to McKinley. So let's look at this factually. I still am confused. I guess the president is trying to tell his supporters, hey, I'm in there doing what I need to do. But he's also following, as far as I can tell, the law. He's only doing executive orders where he has the authority to do it. All right, we are going to go into a deeper depth of this speech on our show on Monday at canagetawordin.com. Until then, I'd love to hear you contact us at canagetawordin.com. Put comments in there. Go to Facebook, Add Another Voice with Eric and Friends, and leave us comments there. Go to YouTube at Be Another Voice. Comment on this video or others. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Or go to Twitter at Be Another Voice. And until we talk again, get out in your community and make a difference.